So there was that horrific racially charged, racially generated shooting in South Carolina at a church. After that, there was a lot of upheaval about the Confederate flag,
Which
because the Confederate flag is it's not on top of the state building in South Carolina, but it's on the grounds of the state capitol. So there's a lot of calling for it to be taken down in various southern states where it's on the state grounds. They've already done it in a couple, including Alabama. When Alabama takes down the Confederate flag, then you know that people are like, what the fuck's going on?
And I can't say I disagree. It's not exactly a fucking positive symbol.
We can get into it. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I'm not saying you should not be disallowed to fly the flag on your property, wear a shirt with it.
I know we're not to trick or treat or hang out.
Yeah, but I actually saw a gentleman at the airport with a Confederate flag and U.S. flag shirt. Feel free to do that, but it should not be on state grounds.
It's bullshit.
It just shouldn't be. That aside, though, there was a bit of an overreaction in terms of the market on Amazon. They basically stopped allowing the sale of the Confederate flag, even though that you could still buy like Nazi flags on some of these websites. But Apple stopped the sale of basically almost any game that had the Confederate flag in it, including Civil War games. Now,
like historical Civil War reenactments. That's kind of something that needs to be in there.
Sure.
I detest the Confederate flag and would love to see it torn down. However, when you're talking something like this, when you're talking things that relate to the Civil War, in a game, what are you going to replace this with? I mean, you do want these sort of things to be historically accurate. The Nazi flag flies all over World War II reenactment games.
Sure. I think you got to be careful because going back to Germany, Germany has outlawed the Nazi symbolism, and any game that comes out there, they edit out the Nazi flag. And you don't want to forget. It's not a problem to be so ashamed of your history. And now, I guess for Nazi Germany, they're only less than 80 years behind, while this was actually the 150th anniversary of the end of the Civil War, which I won't get into how there was absolutely no talk about that, which to me was unfathomable, that there was absolutely no speeches given or nothing talked about the end of the Civil War, since it was the most horrific time in U.S. history. But you can't totally forget that these things existed in your nation's history. And in a Civil War game, you expect to see the Confederate flag, because while it was not used by every state, it was used by a good amount of units in the Confederacy. The games were taken off of Steam. The major one was Ultimate General series, and it was Ultimate General Gettysburg that was taken up. And it's just a Civil War strategy game. You've seen them 1,000 times.
Now, I could be wrong, but I believe it was reinstated on the App Store.
It was. So it sounds like they had some phone calls, and it was a general overreaction by Apple, and they put it back. And because basically you're not playing a Civil War game. When you're playing a Civil War game, you're playing it for the strategy aspect and the historical value. You're not playing it because of the racially charged elements of the Confederate flag. That's not why you're playing a game like that. It's more for historical accuracy. So it was just a sort of an overreaction to that. But yes, the flag should be taken down on all state grounds, because it was this is going to get people upset in the comments. But at the very least, it represents treason. And
flag. Racism and bigotry, I would also go so far.
Sure, but when you're talking about just in terms of what it represents against the government, it was a treasonous act, especially by those Civil War generals that swore an oath to the fucking Constitution and went to West Point, and everything else. They went to these military academies, and then forget about that. I'm going to fight against the U.S. So, all right.